Hi everyone and welcome to today's webinar, the 2026 Digital Experience Blueprint, Converting Intent into Revenue. I'm Ellis and I look after the partner marketing here at Magnolia, and I'll be moderating today's session. So today we've got an exciting lineup of experts from all different domains, specializing in DX, AI, search and chatbot, e-commerce and digital experience platforms. They're all ready to share their insights into how you can drive more revenue. So a few housekeeping notes before we get started. So this webinar is being recorded and we'll share that recording with you by the end of the week. Do check the docs tab because we've got some extra resources, including how can content teams make the most out of AI white paper, a customer webinar on Global Blue on some practical AI improvements, a DXP 101 guide, and we also have an interactive product AI tour that you can check out by pressing the button above the screen. And we want this session to be as interactive as possible, so please do use the Q&A tab and ask your questions. We'll try and answer as many at the end, but if not, we'll follow up directly. So to get us started, it will be great to understand what's on the top of everybody's mind today. So let's kick off with a poll question. What frustrates you most about digital experiences today? So you should just have the poll pop up on your screen, so do let us know what you think. And while you're voting, I'd like to welcome today's experts onto the stage. So please join me. Hey, Nicole. Hey, Jan. Hey, Patrick.
Hello.
So, yeah, let's go around the room. And if you could introduce yourself and an area of expertise. So let's start with Patrick. Welcome.
Hi, I'm Patrick, and I'm responsible for the digital experience solutions at Arineo. So since more than 25 years, we build customer-facing solutions, and if you can calculate, it starts in the late 90s with e-commerce integrated into ERP, and then we followed by content management systems, or DXP as we call it today. And of course, right now we have AI solutions which we integrated into these systems. So I'm happy to be here.
Perfect. Welcome, Patrick. Nicole, introduce yourself.
Hi, everybody. My name is Nicole Rogers, and I focus on marketing and operations at a company called AI1-Z. So we focus on AI search and digital assistance and have built out a platform for that.
Welcome. And Sebastian.
Hi, Ellis. Hi, everyone. Great to be part of this round. Sebastian, Marketing Director of Emporix, and we are on a mission to make commerce actually truly autonomous. And we help B2B companies break free from rigid systems and build something that actually keeps up with how businesses move today. So really glad to be in this round.
Yeah, great to have you. And Jan, I'm sure many people on this call know you, but please do introduce yourself.
Yeah, hello world. So my name is Jan Schulte. I'm head of consulting. I'm 13 years in with Magnolia. And yeah, what I do for a living is typically pitching, tinkering with the latest and greatest. At the moment, obviously, a lot of stuff with AI, or like today, just being part of this wonderful webinar.
Perfect. Well, I think sure we can all agree there's a lot of expertise in the room. So just before we dive in, let's have a look at the poll results. Be cool to see what's frustrating you most. So we've got irrelevant or generic content. It's got a high amount of votes. Difficulty completing purchases and tasks. Finding what I need quickly. So yeah, what do we think then? Are we surprised by the results? Any ones that you would like to comment on?
Well, that reflects pretty well with me, especially on this irrelevant and generic content. There's definitely, especially in the last 2 years, a flood of content that is not really targeted and pretty broad. And yeah, that's definitely something that I find, especially in the recent weeks, months, pretty irritating for sure.
Yeah. I agree with you, Jan. So irrelevant content is not useful, and to find what you really need quickly is also another point, and this is the second place. So I think this is a focus we have to look on.
Perfect. I think that sort of ties us into our first topic, which is the on-site experience. So Patrick, obviously expertise in digital experience. what does a modern digital experience feel and look like today? What should it feel and look like today?
Thank you, Alice. I think what we realized in the last 1 or 2 years is that customers ask more and more for a single touch point. They do not want to have a website, a service portal, a customer portal, another website, and then maybe something for spare parts. They want to have a single touch point, and when they go there and log in, they get exactly what they are looking for. As we saw it in the polls, they want to have the relevant information at one place. And the important thing is that you have one login, one concept, and one philosophy behind it. So just to make it clear, users want to have a simplicity and relevant application in the business as well as in the private content in the evening. So we are the same people in the morning, at lunch, and in the evening, and that's why we have the same expectations at the end of the day. And I think, from my point of view, it has to be consistent and personalized. And the other point is, if you have a look on companies, why they do not deliver this kind of expectations, what we feel in a lot of our projects or from our prospects, they still stuck in silos and in different units within the company. And we have to break this out, come together on a table, talk about the experience of their users and how we can create this in a similar way to make the customer happy at the end of the day.
Yeah.
Really interesting.
And where do you see most organizations falling short?
Sorry?
And where do you see most organizations falling short?
Just as I said, they have silos, and also from the organizational point of view, it's not only silos in the systems. They have silos in the systems, they have silos in the organization, instead of the experience of their users in mind. And that's why if they focus on the structures, they do not create the experience which customers expect at the end of the day.
Yeah, just to add on to what Patrick said, I would say that sometimes organizations don't know where to start in terms of integrating all those systems. So I think that should be a focus. Like, how do you build that perfect digital experience? But they need some guidance in terms of how to start with that.
I would also add that in most projects, I mean, it's not really a technology and technological decision that you have. It's more a change project, right? If you have these silos in your departments and front office is not talking to back office departments, then it just becomes hard. But because for the customer, actually, it doesn't matter, right? It doesn't matter in which department you are in your company, and he just wants to have a great experience when he buys stuff from you. And this is something which is right now in most of the companies not happening.
Yeah, perfect. And what about from your perspective? How important is the ability to, even personalize the experience? I know this is a topic that you've got quite a lot of experience in. It'd be great to kind of get your input there.
Yep. To be honest, it's a really fascinating topic, because since I'm in the industry, and this is not really for a long while, personalization is really discussed back and forth, and yet it's really happening really, really rarely. There are a few outliers if it comes to recommenders for products and so on. I mean, hands down, that's clearly a solved problem that truly works. However, if it comes to personalization on a content level, I see really very few projects out there that are really completely nailing it. And also here, that really brings us back what Sebastian said. It's a people problem in that sense that you have to produce all this content. You really have to think through what kind of different audiences do you really have, and then you would actually have to produce all that content. And most content teams anyways are pretty much booked, so there is simply no capacity at all to do so. And what I really think is that AI is really a massive unlock for that, because finally you can just use basically those descriptions that you have for your segments. and you can use AI to basically apply to get all the right variants that really make a difference. And I think this is really one of those things where AI has just an immediate effect to get the personalization finally into a state that really makes a difference.
But interesting also what you say, right? I mean, of course, AI is bringing us a leap forward, but at the end, the AI is also, or AI needs actually the data to bring in those value, and which brings us again to the integration part, which Nicole just mentioned, which is probably at some point in time also the hard part for enterprises to integrate all of these systems and to have that common data lake where AI can pull the data points out of and deliver relevant content and relevant experiences.
Absolutely. That will be one of the biggest topics, at least it's my prediction, in the upcoming years, because AI is obviously a massive unlock, but you really you need the foundations really right. And again, pretty often they're just simply not accessible, or it is just way too broad or way too imprecise and whatnot. And I'm absolutely sure once you really have this unified data access that is also then actionable for AI, this will be really a huge step towards much more automated, personalized content that is really making a difference.
Yeah, excellent. And obviously another key aspect of turning intent into revenue is helping users actually find what they're looking for. And obviously we've mentioned that AI is a big part of that. So I think that leads us actually into a nice segue into topic 2 for today, which is AI's role in discovery. Now, a few stats that I found out before this session, AI could drive $15 trillion in revenue in the next decade. Half of consumers want AI to help find products faster, and nearly 7 in 10 would be happy to use a chatbot if it solved issues quickly. Nicole, this is your area of expertise. Why should organizations rethink the traditional site search and into turning intent into revenue?
Yeah, thanks, Ellis. Well, first of all, I would say that traditional search has never really been designed to capture intent. And because of that, what happens with traditional search is it comes back with a list of links, and it may be hundreds or thousands of links, or it may be 0 results. And in the thousands of links scenario, that is where we have to dig through that. It becomes a research project in itself. And that is where intent is lost and ultimately where revenue is lost. But bring in AI really changes that. And a lot of us are using AI every day. So ChatGPT, Perplexity, Claude, we're getting used to asking questions and then getting an immediate response. And in some cases, it'll be a conversation back and forth with like Claude, for instance. And users today are starting to expect, and if they, if not now, like soon they will be expecting these same experiences on websites, where instead of keyword matching to content, instead it's going to be this conversational experience in which they can ask a digital assistant a question and then get led to that answer. Now, this is important too, where you want to be able to reference the source where that information came from. You don't want a bot to hallucinate. So that's where, when you bring in these conversational experiences, you're going to lead the user much more to be able to convert, which ultimately leads to revenue.
Yeah, it's interesting because actually, I mean, enterprises and suppliers, they have to deal. Actually, AI is like another channel, right? Because they are dealing with an AI layer that sits between their actual consumer, the actual customer, and them. So they need to be able to also supply the structured, again, data, again, we are data, to even come to the point that your products are recommended by the AI and by the LLMs, right? Which is an interesting thing.
Yeah, and at the end of the day, it's very important that the AI is not creepy. So it has to be relevant. It has to be transparent, because I just had a experience last week. We talked about insurance for health for foreign countries. And in the evening, when we streamed some series, I got advertisement for health insurance for foreign countries. And my wife said, "Oh, somebody is listening now." So, that's where I think we don't know what happened. I think it's a very, very important point to build up trust, that you handle the data with care, and that you only do what is consistent at the end of the day, and that you follow the compliance rules.
Also, just to add on to that, to what you said, Patrick, I would say that some people some organizations take a crawl, walk, run approach with implementing AI, as well as conversational AI chatbots. And so we found, especially within the healthcare and the life sciences organizations, they want to take more of a different approach, where instead of using AI to answer the question, they're actually referring to, here's the top 3 links, and here's where you can get that information on page 26. And then later on down the road, they're actually implementing AI to answer the question itself, still with that reference to where it came from, but then also including things like forms and calls to actions. So how do you go past just a regular conversational AI digital assistant in which it's answering questions? It's beyond just RAG or retrieval augmented generation, and it's much more showing interactive elements within the digital assistant as well. But I agree in terms of, you don't want that creepy nature. You don't want to be in that scenario.
Yeah, because I feel like we were even speaking before this about quite a lot of people have had bad experiences with chatbots. So, potentially have felt burnt previously using them. So I wonder, Nicole, if you could ease everyone's mind about the future of chatbots.
I always start my presentations when it's an in-person event. I ask people to raise their hand. How many of you have used a chatbot on a website before? And majority of people raise their hand. I would say if we, did a poll today, everybody would be like, yep. And then I do a follow-up. How many people have had a frustrating experience? And everybody keeps their hand up. And I would say that chatbots have such a bad reputation. I mean, for myself as well. And this is where AI is game-changing. Personally, I think that the future of websites is where we're going to come, like the website isn't dead. It's totally still going to be there. But we're going to come to a website and we're going to start interacting with an AI chatbot, a digital assistant, AI search, whatever you want to call it. Some people call it agents. And it's going to be more of that interactive dialogue, but you're still going to be using the website pages in the background as well, and sometimes minimize the chatbot. But the future of a chatbot in terms of, well, I'll talk about the future later, but in terms of where we're going with chatbots, Ellis, it is much more including those dynamic features within it. So it's not just the Q&A. If you're interacting with an AI chatbot that's just questions and answers, going back to what Sebastian said, bringing in that third party, that real-time data from third-party systems is hugely key, because that is going to be able to lead to business outcomes in which you can make a reservation, you can sign up for something, but you have to, like, all of those systems have to be talking together. It can't just be a standalone Q&A bot.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I mean, definitely. Yeah, absolutely. I'm definitely thinking that this will be one of the biggest changes that we're probably going to see during the year. I mean, just given that finally this Gemini is part of Google search, a lot of people will definitely just develop the habit that it will be almost a default to, okay, where's a chatbot that can really help me? And obviously that takes a while till it really becomes an habit forming. But I think this is really where the web will move more and more, that chatbots really start to play a much more prominent role. At least if I look at myself, I can feel it.
Yeah,
you cannot defend yourself. I mean, it's happening kind of, if you Google something, it's happening, right?
Yes, for sure.
Yeah.
Perfect. Let's ask another poll to the audience. It would be great to understand your feedback on how do you currently respond to user intent on your website or digital channel. And also don't forget to ask some questions in the Q&A for our experts. We've got some time at the end to address as many as we can. So yeah, do ask away. Excellent. Yeah, I think obviously once you understand user intent, the next step is responding meaningfully. And I think that's where personalization as a topic comes in. So kind of leads us nice onto the next topic, which is relevant and compliant personalization. So Jan, it'd be great to get your feedback. How does AI actually help personalize the experience?
Yep. From my point of view, we are also going to see quite a bit of a shift. So at the beginning, when we just discussed personalization on a content level, then the status quo at the moment is still, it's pretty much persona based. So I try to understand what the actual persona is, and then based on this content, I start to personalize. And this is fine for quite a few use cases, but I think there's also a big area where you can do much better because all the content that you have that basically speaks intent. So what is really your goal? Just knowing that I'm Jan Schulte, I'm currently in Switzerland, that's maybe a relevant data point, but this is not spelling out the intent, the actual goal that I currently try to solve. And AI helps quite a bit to automatically tag all the content for the actual intent. And then basically it becomes pretty easy to spot the usage patterns. So you really move away from this person looked at certain URLs and therefore based on machine learning, I predict that this is his potential goal. You can pretty easily just find out, okay, since that person is, well, let's take, for example, a banking scenario. That person is now really hunting to apply for a new credit card. That's pretty easy to spot once I just look at 2 pages and I really start to interact with that content. And with those intent signals, it becomes then pretty easy to also do what we just discussed at the beginning with those recommendation models. It's pretty easy just to recommend the next best action. So you can really start to tap into your content pool, into your pages and start to just deliver the matching nudges for the next best action for this person. And I think this will really make those experiences much more relevant and much more targeted compared to what we have seen before. And yeah, it's also really a matter of automation. In theory, you could do all those things by hand, but good luck on going through all your content, your tens and thousands of pages, and actually flagging this intent by hand. And also the second bit, then again go through the books, through all your pages, through your content pools and so on, and just say this should be sent when this and that intent is reached. It's an absolute scaling nightmare, but AI basically gives you all that work for free, and then really with really little effort, you can go to personalization that really makes a difference. And yeah, I'm pretty sure this will be the next big thing if it comes to intent-driven personalization.
Yeah, and we do have a white paper on that in the docs tab, making generative AI real for content teams, if you did want to search a little bit more into the topic. So how can content teams kind of deal with that urge to create more content for those different journeys? Because even when I was in content marketing, I felt like you had to create all of this content to meet all of these different audiences. Or, you know, how can AI help here? I think this is probably the angle.
It is a game changer, absolutely, if you use it wisely, young Padawan. So what I want to say with that is, obviously, AI makes it really easy just to produce a lot of content, but that brings us pretty fast back to the results from the very first poll tab. It's really about having the right matching content at the right spot, and then it's very easy to come up with a very simple statement and make a whole book out of it. That's definitely not the point of it. It's really about using AI to create content at scale that really makes sense in the right scenario. And that's really easy to read, easy to consume, and in the end, effective and delightful.
Excellent. And Nicole, sorry, yeah.
Speaking about that, there's also a webinar in the Docs tab where we basically discuss this quite a bit. So if you want to dive a little bit deeper, there's this AI in action from hype to hands-on. So yeah, if you're interested to go a little bit deeper, maybe it's worthwhile to watch this one as well.
Do check that out. But yeah, Nicole, conversational personalization and AI digital concierges are hot topics right now.
Yeah.
How do they work in practice?
Yeah, great question. So if you think about personalization, as Jan said, we've been talking about personalization for years in the CMS or DXP space. And so I personally think when you get a true personalization experience when you actually talk to somebody in real life. So just imagine whether B2B or B2C scenario, B2C, like when you actually go to a retail store and talk to somebody. So that is where a digital assistant can come into play. You are conversing with that AI bot and it's able to answer your questions. But what is next level is when somebody comes to a website, their intent for that specific moment in time may be different from when they last came to the website. So for instance, if I go to an e-commerce website, I'm shopping, I'm a runner, so I love to shop for running gear and apparel and new running shoes or track shoes, but I may go to that same e-commerce site the next day, and I have a family member who just had a baby, and so I need to get them a baby shower gift. So that site may have tried to personalize that experience for me, but then I then talk to a digital assistant. So in the future, what's occurring now with Magnolia is you talk to a digital assistant, this is what I'm looking for, and then the landing page directs you. It answers your question, but it directs you to the right landing page. And in addition, the landing page can then transform before your eyes. So it'll swap the content, it'll swap the banner, it'll swap the call to action button, and all of a sudden you have a true personalized experience, not only chatting with the digital assistant and continuing that conversation, but also seeing it within the landing page itself. And then one thing that I also want to add on to what Jan mentioned was the insights that we get from talking to digital assistants is really interesting on websites. We have a client who solely wanted to use the solution, like an AI chatbot solution, just to understand what are people coming to ask? Like, what are people searching for? And this will actually help with your, whether you call it GEO or GEO strategy, as well as SEO strategy. But you're able to understand the content that people are searching for. And then if the bot comes back with an I don't know answer, your content marketing team can then create the content accordingly to be like, oh, a lot of people are asking on this particular subject and we don't have any content on that. Let's go create some landing pages and blog posts and things of that nature, which again will ultimately help with GEO so that you get found within ChatGPT and Perplexity and Claude.
Yeah, and that also is pretty funny, brings us also almost back to the beginning about the connectivity of systems, because what obviously Magnolia can do is it can also already give the detected intent to AI12Z. So basically there's also some kind of pre-information to be much more precise. And obviously AI12Z can just give that basically back to also help then in finding the matching content that is auto-suggested while going through that journey. So yeah, it's really all about the connectivity.
Yeah, definitely. And of course, personalization and discovery are only valuable when it leads to meaningful action, which I think leads us onto our final topic for today, which is conversion and operational reality. So, what does it actually take to convert users and tie all of these experiences to the real business value? Sebastian, what separates a good digital experience from one that actually converts?
Yeah, actually, I mean, at least from my point of view and also from Emporic's point of view, a good experience feels right. And but a converting experience actually removes every reason to hesitate, right? So, and for us, these are kind of two different design problems, probably, when you like to call it like that. And conversion is actually an orchestration problem, right? It's of course also a UX problem, but not only, right? The front end, the commerce layer, the backend data, all needs to be in sync at the moment of truth when it comes to the actual sale. And when it comes to the transaction, then actually also the trust is built or broken, right? And this moment in the experience either delivers on its promise or it exposes actually where the problems lie. And this is quite interesting because actually for us, customer experience as is often seen as a front end problem, right? As often seen as a pure UI problem or pure UI topic, which is not the case. Definitely not, right? I would even say, especially in B2B, it's more a back office and a problem or a challenge with everything that happens actually after the cart, after the transaction takes place. So checking if the product is in stock, then delivering it, giving the customer the feeling that it's handled in the right way. Be proactive when it comes to shortages in your warehouse or some other problems that might occur during the delivery and the fulfillment of the product itself, right? Proactively recommend substitution products directly in the cart. That is actually something that's happening rarely, that on the one hand side damages your brand because the customer experience is not good. But on the other hand, it also kind of leaves revenue on the table, right? Because people probably then just leave and don't check out. And this is something where we feel there's not that much emphasis on that topic right now. When you look at what the market is talking about, when you look at least in our bubble on LinkedIn, what people are talking about, it's often about product discovery, it's about AI shopping assistance, it's about everything actually that happens until the cart. But what happens after the cart, there lies a lot of efficient gains that in our experience that we can leverage.
Yeah, Sebastian, I totally agree with you. So the normal sales process, yeah, find the product, put it to the basket, place the order, usually goes smooth. And after that, if you are in after sales, yeah, there are the things broken. And what we realized during our projects in the past is if you make it that the customer can do the things easily is the first point. Yeah, and it should be easy to buy the things they want easily. Yeah, not too much options, just focus. And what we realized is the operator of the system should be able to easily change the system, that they do not have to wait for the service provider, because often you have to be fast at the end of the day. And if you always have to wait for the service provider, you run into trouble.
That's actually also true, yeah. I mean, we live in such a fast changing world, right? I mean, dynamic as is, it's not even a question anymore, right? If you look back 12 months from now, I mean, no one could imagine what AI is able to do right now, right?
True.
And if we look 12 months in the future, I'm pretty sure that no one of us knows where we are heading. So we are living in a world with so much uncertainty, with so much dynamic. You have to be able to be agile. You have to have a speed, a high pace, and if you rely on too much on service providers or your internal IT department, right, creating tickets, then waiting 2 weeks until someone is replying. I mean, probably everyone in marketing and sales and the business functions is knowing what I'm talking about, because I know it for myself, right? Even if I'm not directly involved in commerce. But it's often it's often a hassle when it comes to that. And if you need to rely to just change small things in your journey, in your customer journey, right? Because you need to change them because someone else is changing something, right? Or the ecosystem is changing, or there are political things that happen. I mean, we all know, right? What is going on right now in the world. So I think you need to be able to change things to a certain amount, at least, I would say, right? By yourself. Yeah. So these kind of no-code, low-code tools is one of the main drivers of that. We truly believe that.
Yeah.
Perfect. And Nicole, we're also seeing kind of conversion actually happening inside the chatbots. How is that? How is AI obviously changing that path as well?
Yeah, good question, Ellis. First of all, I'm going to add on to what Sebastian said with the low code, no code. I think people are talking about vibe coding more and more. And so I think bringing in that vibe coding to any sort of digital experience, I think is important. So we focus on it for AI search and digital assistance, but just like looking at vibe coding where you're not necessarily, or even giving, developer teams, but how do you give the marketing teams and non-technical teams the ability to build these digital experiences so that they can do so, as Sebastian was saying, like fast. We need to it's not only, fast within the experience itself within digital assistants or digital experiences, but also how do you build out those digital experiences easily? And I think that's where vibe coding can come into play. And then Ellis, sorry, can you repeat your question one more time?
Yeah, no, it was just on the topic of, obviously, the topic of conversion.
Yes, got it.
Just about it happening inside the chatbot, obviously.
Yeah, for sure. So, yeah, great question. I would say this goes back to how do you take it beyond just a Q&A bot that we're so used to with traditional chatbots, in which it's like, okay, I just ask a question and I get an answer. That's great, but you want to do so much more than that. To be honest, that's like a bad bot experience. Yes, it can answer your questions, but you want to be able to go beyond answering questions, and this is where you bring in that real-time data from CRMs, CDPs. What have they purchased before in the e-commerce notion? If you're on a hotel website, what have they, what room did they stay in the past? Did they favorite that specific room? So it varies per industry, but then bringing in calls to action. So getting them to click, add to cart with e-commerce. I keep bringing up the e-commerce just because we have that on our panel, but adding the products, being able to compare options. So even within portals, being able to compare different options, seeing carousels so that you can see images and just swipe. And so I think that's super important. And also think of your caching strategy as well. So when you're talking to a digital assistant, there's a few things that should happen. One is being able to answer it fast. And so you can do caching where it just comes back within milliseconds, and also the ability to stream. So we have to keep moving on. So I'm going to hand it off. But yeah, thinking about how do you convert within the digital assistant experience in terms of bringing in those calls to actions and those interactive elements. So that will lead to conversion.
Perfect. That's great. Thank you, Nicole. Maybe one quick sort of last question before we do a round of quick fire, because I've got one question I want to ask at the end. But how important is connecting the content, commerce, customer data to make it all work? Perhaps Jan, you've got some ideas here.
From my point of view, it's extremely important. It also, I think it was Patrick, you also raised this point already. I think if you have to go to a website and you have to do some changes on your account, and that brings you to the different portal where you have to log in again, and then you're just going to be kicked to another portal. For example, I'm looking at you, Meta, right now. This is just definitely an absolute horrible experience. So, and historically speaking, it was pretty often like this. Here's the main website with some kind of brochureware. Then there's a different website with the store and so on. I think this is, if you still run with a setup like this, it really puts you at risk to definitely fall behind. From my point of view, the state of the art clearly is to have everything combined in one portal. And then, as we discussed, in an ideal world, definitely powered by a chatbot that can basically help you to navigate quickly, and in an ideal world, even to start to convert on that. So, this is, from my point of view, the baseline. Yeah.
What we realize right now is exactly what you said, Jan. So customers want to have the one touch point, and then we are on the second level. That means I really like the idea with the chatbot field. So we also put it in our projects, but then we have some people which really love to have their dashboard. And that's why we put another dashboard below, and they can customize it in a way so that when they log in, they see the business cases which are relevant for them. So they have the ability to start with the chatbot. If they have nothing to do there, they see, okay, I have 5 open tickets, 3 returns, whatever, and then they can focus on that, and then they go to the next level.
Perfect. Cool. Well, I think that brings us to some final reflections. What I'd love to get is your kind of one piece of advice for the next 12 months, just before we open the Q&A. And obviously, audience, please do share any questions that you'd like our experts to answer. But my quick fire question is, what's one thing organizations should prioritize in the next 12 months to turn intent into revenue? In about a sentence, if you can. So, Nicole, do you want to kick us off?
Sure. Prioritizing conversational experiences within the website itself to help users move to that next step so that they convert.
Great bit of advice. Sebastian?
I would say in B2B, kind of negotiated pricing, approval workflows, order complexity, I think if they are handled natively, no UX layer will save you. So in my opinion, the backend is actually the experience. And so my advice would connect your backend data to your front-end experience in real time. Everything else, AI, personalization, conversion depends on it. So connect your backend data to your front end.
Great. Thanks, Sebastian. Patrick?
From my point of view, companies should focus on the moment of the highest customer intent. And if there's any friction which you can reduce, this should be the fastest way to do and generate new revenue.
Perfect. And then Jan?
Yeah. Context is king and intent is ace. That is how I would put it, because I think back in the days, there was not enough focus on the actual intent of the client.
That's excellent. And I'm sure if Socrates was alive today, Jan, he'd say something similar. So that's a great philosophical statement to finish on. So, no, that's brilliant. So just before we open the Q&A, just to wrap up some of the key takeaways, it's about understanding what users want, making it easy to find, responding in a way to drive action, and focusing on where intent, personalization and AI intersect to see stronger engagement and revenue. Well, at least that's my take anyway. So final poll. So to the audience, would you be interested in joining a webinar with our partner Site Improve, where we'll unpack some conversion killers, drawing on some insights from live website audits? That's something that we're planning at the moment. Do just respond in the poll if you're interested, and we'll automatically add you to the invitation. Okay, so now let's open the Q&A from the audience. So the first question I've got here is from Larissa. Thanks for the question. When does personalization in content feel great, valuable to the user? And when does it feel rather negative, as an example from an insurance company? Who wants to come in on that one?
I mean, I would say there are different angles to that, right? I would say if the AI is doesn't have the right guardrails, if it's not kind of managed in a right way, that it not hallucinates and starts to kind of giving answers that are actually not true. So also having the human in the loop when it really is necessary to bring in a human, right? When it comes to chatbot, that's especially important. But of course, also if the AI is kind of giving the wrong context, right? So if you don't give it the right context, then it cannot answer correctly, because AI cannot kind of be creative, right? That's the human touch that needs to be creative. But they can rely on the existing data and a lot of data, but when it comes to be creative, then it ends. So this I would say this is the different angles that are there.
Yeah, I would agree with Sebastian. Like if it's not able to, this is from the digital assistant point of view, but if it's not able to answer your question, that is a negative experience. But that organization can again see what questions are being asked and then create that content accordingly. But the live agent escalation is key. Like if you're going live with a digital assistant, and it comes back with an I don't know answer, it can be smart enough to then escalate that conversation to a live agent, and so then they can converse with that individual. But that's a great question. You can take that in so many different angles in terms of personalization on content, specifically on the landing page. Again, swapping out things based on what you asked to make it ultimately a personalized experience on the website itself as well.
I just would add, if it helps, then personalization is valuable. If it doesn't help, let it.
That's great. I think that's a drop the mic moment, and a good chance.
Don't overcomplicate the situation.
Exactly. Don't overcomplicate it. I think naturally we do as humans just overcomplicate everything. So I think that's really good advice. Thank you. Well, look, thank you to all of you, to our expert panel. Thanks to the audience. Thanks for your questions. I think that was a really good session from my perspective, and I hope you all leave with some fresh ideas of how to turn intent into revenue for 2026 and beyond. As I say, you'll receive a webinar recording and extra resources via email by the end of the week. Thanks again. I hope you have a wonderful rest of the day, and I'll see you along at one of our next webinars.